I just got some breaking news along the lines of what we are discussing that will, I think, warm both of your hearts. Russia's defense ministry has confirmed that its Moskva missile cruise ship has sunk. This is just translated by our network and confirmed to be from Russian state-owned media. It says this, quote, "The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation reports that when the cruiser Moskva was towed to the port of destination due to damage to the hull received during the fire caused by the detonation of ammunition, the ship lost stability. The ship sank in a stormy sea." General McCaffrey, your reaction?
Well, it's good news. I mean, look, we got a huge challenge facing us, we meaning NATO and the U.S. in particular, for the next phase of this battle. The question's in doubt of how this whole war comes out. The Ukrainians have called up 200,000 territorial forces, and the West is now rushing to equip them with body armor, small arms, anti-tank missiles, etc. And the Ukrainians got to put together a massive force to counterattack the Russians, who are also massive. By the way, the ratio of manpower and equipment on the two sides is about equal now. The Russians rushing conscripts in, ill-trained also. So we got to stand by them. I think we are. And knocking this ship over and into the sea was a great blow of triumph for the Ukrainians.
So, Congressman, as you're describing the impact of seeing a tank blown up, I was handed this note of the Russians have now watched their ship sink. You know, just pick up on what the general's talking about. And you know, again, there is, in addition to what I think is a little more opaque to us here, the masterful conduct of the Ukrainian military, what Ambassador Bill Taylor, former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, described as the best trained military in Europe, because in part they've been at war in the Donbass for years now, is now proving to be quite strategic as well. You're talking about a psychological blow to the Russians. Just pick up on those points.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the general's point that on paper, the armies are pretty evenly matched. Russia and Ukraine have about the same number of forces now in this fight. That means that morale is all the more important here. It can really be the decisive factor. And I mean, let me tell you, I mean, the general knows this very well himself from having led troops, but when you're leading troops, especially in an unpopular war, I mean, I led troops in Iraq. There are a lot of my Marines that disagreed with President Bush's decision, that disagreed with the strategy. It was very hard sometimes to, you know, all get behind a mission when they didn't fundamentally agree with what was going on. That was one of the hardest jobs I had as a 26-year-old lieutenant commanding a platoon of Marines, to explain to these guys why they had to risk their lives for a conflict that they didn't believe in. Now, that's not to say all of them didn't believe in it, but a lot of them had a lot of questions. Well, you've got to imagine that these young Russian troops have a lot of questions about what's going on here. I mean, at least my Marines knew what they were doing. Many of these Russian troops were deluded into thinking they were going on a training mission, and suddenly they find themselves in a brutal war against people, the Ukrainian people, who in many cases they know, they share relatives with, they share friends with. Morale is going to be a big factor here, and a lot of Russian troops are going to have their morale further hit by seeing a Russian warship, a flagship no less, sunk in the Black Sea. It's a very powerful moment here in this conflict.
Yeah, I mean, General McCaffrey, I think your earliest assessment has held for 50 days that the incompetence of the Russian military, both in its battle plan and its conduct on the battlefield, is the story. It only seems to reinforce itself. And we've covered Mariupol for almost as many days as we've been covering the war. But Ali Arouzi and you've made the point that the Ukrainians still control Mariupol. It seems like even where the Russian military has been its most brutal, its most heinous, where it's committed the genocide President Biden talked about, it still isn't winning.
Yeah, it's really astonishing. The defense of Mariupol is simply magnificent. It'll go down the annals of, military history of a small force defending in a rubble city. Look, when we look at the Ukrainians, they do have several advantages. Their generals are better. They made good decisions. Defensive warfare and build up urban areas, they were magnificent. They used 8-man nighttime patrols with anti-tank missiles. The Ukrainians have an NCO Corps. We've worked on that with them for 10 years. So they've got sergeants. So if the lieutenant gets killed, the platoon doesn't come apart. And the Russians don't. They're a top-down, do what you were ordered to do. The Ukrainians have actually used hybrid warfare. They get out there, they're really good with special operations forces. And every village has a grandmother with an app on her phone calling in location of Russian tanks. So it's a nation in arms, trying to repel these Russian cruel invaders. We still don't know how this is going to come out. And we still haven't given the Ukrainians the technological edge they require. That's going to happen in the coming 30 days.